I wanted to give you just a quick overview of the course requirements. Before I did, I looked at my notes on what to tell you in these syllabus overviews, screencasts, and I realized I forgot a couple things. One is it's not exactly the syllabus, but it's the work that I expect you to prep before class. You'll notice on the pages I put up on the Moodle site, preparing for Module 1, preparing for Module 2, etc. I've reminded you of the reading, and I have you do practice problems in the sapling system that do count. Those are mandatory, and you really just aren't going to succeed if you don't take those responsibilities seriously. However, I've put a lot of screencasts up on the Moodle site. If those help you, absolutely listen to them. They are by no means required. They're there if they help you. Some of my students at the undergraduate level have asked that I have explanations available, so I've tried to break up my undergraduate classes into smallish chunks of concepts and talk each one through in a separate screencast. I have matched those that are made based on another text, another class, and I apologize that they're out of sync with our textbook and our class. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. But I put those up in case they're helpful. I've also, there are a couple of sets of screencasts that are actually pretty good. Some of the Khan Academy stuff is good. I've put up the Khan Academy links to explanations that I think are pretty good. Saul Khan is a great guy, it's a great setup, but he's not an economist, and sometimes I just don't like the presentation. But here and there I put his screencasts up there. They're pretty good, totally optional. But some students like to have an explanation before they start diving in and working with the stuff. I understand that, but in class we're going to work with the stuff. If you want the explanation besides what's in the reading, those screencasts are there. There's a set of videos online that I like, at least some of which I like. It's M Foodie or something like that. Anyway, occasionally I put her screencasts up, and when I think they're pretty good. Those are, again, totally optional. There's no expectation that you watch those. Watch them if they're helpful. Don't if they're not. All right, I've reminded you of that. What's the work for the course? Well, one thing I want you to know, I want you to notice is that the way the coursework is split up is 30% of the coursework is from group work. So I have you do a lot in teams. Your success in the course, even as an individual, is going to hinge on the work in teams. That team evaluation piece especially. Treat your team members with respect, make an honest effort. That's important. And there is one group project that counts a total of 15% of your grade. So it's pretty. There's a lot at stake there, and I want you to do a really good job. I'll talk about that in a moment. But all in all, the team-based learning approach has 30 points of your 100 points in the course that depend on the teamwork. Most of the grade will be determined by individual work. I emphasize this only because I've gotten some feedback. I don't like my grade determined by my team. No, 70% of your grade will come from what you personally do. Practice problems, I let you take as many times as you want. They're up there just to help you develop mastery. I expect you to go through them. I will give you whatever points you earn on those, and that'll amount to 10% of the grade. Again, you can submit answers to those problems. If you're hunting and pecking in the dark, you're not going to learn the stuff. Even if you get 100% on the practice problem grade, you're gonna have trouble. But if you're engaged in that process constructively, you're going to find that you're going to come out of that exercise of reading and doing the practice problems really knowing the material well. That individual quizzes are 5% of your grade, so if you're prepping well and really getting it, you're going to have most of those points, I would expect. Problem sets. The problem sets I only give you 2 attempts at. Maybe that's one too many, but it's fewer than infinity, which is what I give you on these practice problems. Those problem sets are important. I will say the sapling system is really convenient. I can grade them instantaneously. There's some really good problems there. Sadly, they don't sync exactly with Farnham, so that I've gone through and tried to sync them as best I can. Anyway, the problem sets are a subset of what's in Farnham, not the superset. But between the problem sets and the TAPS and the midterm, I will hit most of what's in Farnham. I will have a midterm exam, the first thing we do on that second class meeting, Friday, that's second set of class meetings, Friday, January 23rd. You're going to sit down and take a midterm on the material that we've studied during weeks 1 and 2. That midterm is going to count 20% of the grade. I don't have a final. I can't proctor a final, but you'll see in the Farnham text, I hope, the last chapter of the Farnham text does a really neat case analysis that uses every element of the course material to walk through a case study for McDonald's Corporation. And I'm going to ask you to write, I'm going to require you, being king and ultimate judge, there is no separation of powers here in this little dictatorship, Business 503. Anyway, I'm going to ask you to write an abbreviated case study. I think I've got it as 7 to 10 pages. I really don't care about length. I don't care that you make it long enough. I don't want to see too long of a final paper. But what I care about is that you assess a corporation's economic environment, their microeconomic environment, what kind of demand conditions, how have they changed in recent times, what's their product mix, what's their pricing strategy, what kind of competition do they face, how much differentiation. You'll see in chapter 16 in Farnham really models an excellent case study. That case study moves on to the second half of the course modules, the last third of the course, modules 5 and 6, treat macro topics. So I expect for that final paper, you'll walk through the macroeconomic conditions that a firm faces. How do they do in the Great Recession? How susceptible are sales to business cycle effects? Does that firm trade? Do they export a significant portion of their output? Well, what kind of exchange rate exposure do they have? Exchange rate risk do they have? How do they manage that? These final papers are a mix of research of a particular company and application of concepts that we're going to study in this course. Should be fun. I think it'll be fun to do. I hope it will be. I don't want it to be easy. I want you to be challenged, but I don't want you to be challenged to the point where you're going to get fired from your job. I'm trying to keep it reasonable. But those final papers ought to be. I expect them to be really good. Chapter 16 gives you a model of how to write them really good and the level of research I expect. Anyway, that's 20% of the grade. That's individual. I'm going to change colors here as I turn to the team portion, only just for differentiation. So as far as the teamwork, you're going to do these team quizzes. They're the same quizzes as the individual, but you're going to do them as a team. It was one of the neat things about using this methodology is to see how much better the teams do compared to the individuals. The team performance, I would expect every single team to have a team quiz total that often far exceeds even the highest performing individual quiz. It's really neat to see that together and in discussing these ideas, you really master them based on your own contribution to each other's understanding. It's really impressive. The applications that we'll do in class count in and of themselves 10% of the grade, but realize those applications are going to be very similar to the what you're going to see on the midterms, and that I said that in plural. There's only going to be one midterm exam. But those concepts that we'll do on modules 1 through 3, you're going to see different versions of, but similar problems on that midterm. And then finally, there's probably the project that needs most explanation is this group project. And the group project, will be a case study. It'll be an analysis of a particular firm, and you as a group will decide on a firm to focus on at the end of that first meeting. That'll be the end of class Saturday, January 10th. You'll meet to decide what company your group wants to focus on. And I have a forum where you can post that company. You'll probably want to come up with a list of companies because somebody may beat you to the company that you want to do. And I don't want any duplicated topics. It's just boring for me and for everybody. Anyway, the group will write an analysis of the microeconomic environment that a particular firm acts in as that group project. So modules 1 through 4 focus on microeconomics. So I want an analysis of demand conditions, product variety, etc., but also the nature of the competitive environment. And so module 4 moves on to study oligopoly, where there's just a few firms. I actually have moved monopolistic competition from the monopoly chapter, which is going to be in module 3. I take that little piece from chapter 8. I take the monopolistic competition material and move it into module 4. Anyway, I expect those group projects to analyze the pricing decisions, the pricing structure of that particular firm of focus as part of the group report. There will be a paper, a group paper. Again, it's like 7 to 10 pages. I have it in the syllabus. But there's also a group presentation on Saturday, January 24th. The last thing we do in class is going to be to have groups present their projects, and you're going to have written a paper. The revised paper is due, I think right now I have it due that class day. I might make it due a couple days later, so if there's some questions and problems that come up, you have time to address those. But anyway, you'll be graded on the quality of the paper plus the quality of the presentation. So I think that gives you a sense. I will have handouts and grading rubrics and all that for the both the individual final paper and for that team project, that group project, team project that's part of, essentially is part of the midterm, although it does extend into the module 4 material. Really looking forward to meeting you all on Friday and working together during the month of January 2015.